Welcome to RWG Publishing. Today, we are diving into a really fascinating and, sometimes pretty controversial movement. It's one that puts our democracy to the test, right out on the streets. We're going to be drawing from Bill Vincent's book, Protecting Our Rights, to really get a handle on this group of citizens who are holding public officials accountable in a very, very direct and very public way.
So, this whole thing really starts with a fundamental question at the heart of our democracy. We all expect our public institutions, our government buildings, our police departments to be transparent and accountable, right? That's the foundation of the trust we put in them. But what happens when we feel like they're not? How can just an ordinary person actually check if their rights are being respected by people in power? Well, the answer might be a lot simpler and way more powerful than you think.
And that's where the First Amendment audit comes in. Just picture this. You walk into a public building, maybe your local city hall, a post office, or even a police station lobby with your phone recording. Now, you're not there to cause any trouble. You're simply there to see if the public officials inside understand your constitutional right to be there and to film in a public space. This simple act, this test, is the whole essence of a First Amendment audit. And by sharing these encounters online, these citizens are kicking off a huge national conversation about what transparency really looks like in the 21st century.
Now, you're probably wondering, okay, what gives someone the right to just walk in and start recording? Where does that authority even come from? Well, the answer lies right in the First Amendment of the Constitution. The best way to think about it is like a toolkit for citizen oversight. And these auditors are using every single tool in that box to hold the government accountable to the very people it serves.
When you look at it this way, you can see how these freedoms just work together in this incredibly powerful sequence. So you've got freedom of speech, which is the absolute foundation. The courts have made it clear that the act of recording is a form of expression. Then freedom of the press lets them share that recording, basically acting as citizen journalists. That's a right that's no longer just for big media companies. If they want to do an audit as a group to have a bigger impact, well, that's covered by the freedom of assembly. And finally, the freedom to petition gives them the power to use that footage as evidence to demand real change, to file complaints, push for new policies, or even seek legal remedies. It's really a complete cycle of accountability built right into our Constitution.
And listen, this isn't just some theory. It's been backed by the courts again and again. Just look at this quote from the landmark Glick v. Kniff case. A man named Simon Glick was actually arrested in Boston for recording police officers making an arrest in a public park. The court sided with him, making it absolutely crystal clear that filming public officials in public spaces is a protected First Amendment right. Honestly, this case was a total game changer. It set a powerful precedent that citizen journalists rely on every single day.
And that legal precedent was made even stronger in the case of Turner versus Driver. In this situation, an auditor named Philip Turner was detained for recording a police station from a public sidewalk. The court didn't just agree with him, it went a step further, stating that the right to record the police is clearly established. Now, that phrase, clearly established, is so important. Legally, it means the right is so obvious that officials should know better than to interfere with it. These legal wins are the solid ground that auditors stand on, turning what they do from a simple protest into a legally protected activity.
So who are these individuals actually putting the First Amendment to the test? Who are the people willing to face confrontation just to uphold these principles? Let's take a look at the auditors themselves in action.
You might be picturing professional activists or seasoned journalists, but really, these auditors come from every single walk of life. They're veterans, teachers, truck drivers, retirees, you name it. They're united not by a profession, but by a shared belief that holding a camera up to power is one of the most effective ways to make sure it actually serves the people. They kind of see themselves as modern-day watchdogs for the digital age, using technology that's in all of our pockets to enforce a principle as old as the nation itself.
Here are just a few of the key figures in the movement, and what's so interesting is how different their approaches are. You have guys like Philip Turner and Jeff Gray, who are known for their calm, respectful, almost educational style. They often engage officials in conversations about the law. But then you have someone like James Freeman, who's much more assertive and directly challenges officials who he feels are overstepping their authority. This diversity in tactics just goes to show that there's no single way to be a First Amendment auditor, but they are all driven by that same fundamental goal of accountability.
The stories of these auditors are just fascinating. They're filled with tense confrontations, huge legal battles, and sometimes really surprising moments of understanding. Bill Vincent's book, Protecting Our Rights, really brings their experiences to life. If you're interested in the personal side of this movement, what motivates them and the challenges they face, it's an incredible read, and you can find it right on Amazon. So this brings us to the most important question, right? Does any of this actually work? Beyond getting clicks online,
Does filming in a public building actually lead to any real, tangible change? Well, the evidence from Vincent's book suggests that it absolutely does.
Here is a perfect example of cause and effect. An auditor posts a video of an officer who clearly doesn't understand the law about public photography. That video gets a ton of public attention, and that creates pressure. And what's the result? The police department is basically forced to issue a memo or even implement brand new training for the entire force to stop it from happening again. We see the same thing with unclear policies in places like libraries or government offices. An audit shines a really bright light on a problematic rule, and suddenly that policy gets clarified or changed for the better for everyone.
So when you look at it this way, it is so much more than just one interaction. Each audit is like a ripple in a pond. It promotes transparency by literally showing us what's happening inside our public institutions. It holds specific officials accountable for what they do. It educates the public, and other officials for that matter, about our constitutional rights. It can even deter potential misconduct, because officials know they could be recorded at any time. And over time, all these little ripples combine to create a huge wave of change, helping to build a culture where accountability is the norm, not the exception.
So, what's the big takeaway for you? Well, this movement isn't just something to watch on YouTube. It's a really powerful reminder of the role every single one of us can play in a healthy democracy and the tools that we all have right at our disposal.
And that is such a key theme in Bill Vincent's book. It's not just an analysis of the movement. It's really a call to action. It is packed with practical advice for anyone who wants to go from being a passive observer to an active participant in protecting our civil liberties. It's all about understanding that your rights are only as strong as your willingness to actually stand up and defend them.
The book offers some really crucial tips for anyone even thinking about this. First up, know your rights inside and out. Knowledge is your shield. Second, stay calm. The goal is often to de-escalate and educate, not just to confront. Third, make sure you stick to public spaces so you're always on solid legal ground. And most importantly, record everything. That clear audio and video is your evidence, it's your leverage, and it's your power.
So we're left with this really powerful question for our digital age. I mean, with a high-definition camera and a global distribution platform in pretty much every pocket, what does it really mean to be an engaged citizen today? First Amendment auditing is just one answer, but it shows how technology is fundamentally changing the relationship between the people and the state, empowering individuals in ways that were just unimaginable a generation ago.
If this has sparked your interest and you want to understand the legal precedents, the auditor's stories, and the practical strategies in a lot more detail, I highly recommend checking out Bill Vincent's book, Protecting Our Rights. It's available on Amazon, and it is just a comprehensive look at this entire movement. Thank you for listening to the Deep Dive Podcast.